It all started at the annual family reunion, a gathering that felt more like an episode of a reality show than a celebration. The sun poured down on the manicured lawn of my brother's sprawling estate, a testament to his success. People mingled, laughter echoed, but in that moment, as I stood by the punch bowl, my heart felt like lead. I could already sense the inevitable, the gentle nudges, the sidelong glances, the whispers behind closed doors. "Why did you even bother starting a business?" came a voice that was all too familiar, slicing through the jovial atmosphere like a knife. My brother Alex, the golden child, stood there with his perfectly tailored suit and a smirk that could launch 1,000 ships. "Is it even real or just a hobby? Like your terrible poetry phase." Laughter erupted around us, not the light-hearted giggles you'd expect at a family gathering, but a chorus of mockery. I felt a flush of humiliation race to my cheeks. My startup, an idea born from sleepless nights and countless revisions, was the butt of his joke. I tried to laugh it off, but the knot in my stomach tightened. If you've ever been underestimated by family, you'll understand every part of what happened next. As I looked around, I saw my parents nodding in agreement, their eyes filled with pride as they observed their favorite son. Alex had always been the one who got the best grades, the most recognition, and of course, the largest slice of the family fortune. Meanwhile, I was the shadow, the one cast aside in the glow of his achievements. The realization grew like a storm cloud in my mind. Each taunt, each jab felt like a confirmation of my worthlessness. "It's not like you know anything about running a business, right?" he chuckled, tossing back his head in that condescending way that had irked me since childhood. "What's it called again? Dream big innovations, how cute." The laughter echoed in my ears. I wanted nothing more than to disappear, to blend into the beautifully manicured hedges that flanked the property. But there was nowhere to hide as numbers and investment strategies whirled inside my mind, drowning out the laughter. This wasn't just a hobby, it was my dream, my passion. Yet in the face of my brother's ridicule, it felt like sand slipping through my fingers. Why did I even think I could go against him? The closer I looked, the more it became clear I was the black sheep of a family that thrived on perfection and wealth. I had spent years trying to prove that I wasn't a failure, that my ideas mattered, but every time I took a step forward, Alex pushed me 2 steps back. I forced myself to meet his gaze. "You wouldn't understand," I said, my voice steady despite the tremors of anger beneath. "You've never had to fight for anything in your life, Alex. You've always had everything handed to you." The laughter faded slightly, replaced by the hushed murmurs of relatives who'd been watching our exchange. Their eyes darted between us, a blend of intrigue and pity. I realized that to them, this was just another clash in the ongoing brotherly rivalry, but to me, it felt like an unraveling. My brother's expression shifted, a flicker of surprise crossing his face. Now, he replied, the smirk replaced with a feigned sincerity. "I'm just trying to help you out, little brother. You can't expect to succeed without a marketable idea." With each word, my resentment built, morphing into a fiery determination. What did he know about my struggles? What did any of them know? They'd been basking in their own grandeur, forgetting the hours I spent researching, networking, and perfecting my pitch for investors. My innovation wasn't just another failed attempt, it was a potential game changer. I took a deep breath, my mind racing. What was it going to take for them to see me for who I really was? Was I forever destined to be the underdog in a family that thrived on success? That moment, as I stood there surrounded by my family's wealth and privilege, something shifted inside of me. It was as if a dam of suppressed desires began to crack. The humiliation I felt morphed into a resolve, a burning desire to reclaim my narrative. I wanted to shout that I was worth more than they ever acknowledged. "How about this?" I said, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. "Let's make a bet. If my startup fails, I'll give you your prize Porsche. But if it succeeds, you'll have to publicly apologize for belittling my efforts. Deal?" A brief silence fell over the crowd, the air thick with tension. I could feel the weight of their judgment, but I was done hiding. I was ready to take a stand. Alex raised an eyebrow, clearly taken aback. "Are you serious?" "Absolutely. There's no way you'll be able to pull this off, but okay." He shrugged, a dismissive wave of his hand signaling his confidence. "I guess you'll just have to live with the fact that you're stuck in my shadow for now." As he walked away, I felt a glimmer of hope mixed with my shame. Maybe this was the shift I needed, the catalyst for change. The humiliation would no longer define me. I was determined to prove not only my worth to my family but to myself. Little did I know, this encounter would set off a chain of events that would transform my life forever. It was just the beginning of my journey, a journey I would fight for fiercely, step by fragile step. The fire inside me ignited, setting the stage for the conflict that would unravel in the weeks to come, a battle that would test not just my resolve, but the very foundation of my family's loyalty. And as I stood in that moment, feeling the weight of the world on my shoulders, I silently vowed to rise above the ridicule. I would show them that even the underdog could have their day. As the laughter faded, I felt the weight of their scrutiny pressing down on me. Each chuckle, each pointed glance was a reminder of my place within the family hierarchy, forever second best, forever the dreamer with impractical aspirations. It wasn't just Alex's words that stung, it was the way my parents beamed at him, as if he were the only one worthy of their pride. The punch bowl seemed to swirl with my insecurities, and I could barely swallow the sweet drink, feeling it turn bitter on my tongue. "Come on, let's get out of here," I muttered to myself, desperate to escape the suffocating atmosphere. I turned away from the crowd, seeking refuge in the shade of a nearby tree, but the shadows offered little solace. My mind was a whirlwind of self-doubt and anger. The more I thought about Alex's mocking words, the more they gnawed at me. I'd worked tirelessly to launch my startup, every late night spent coding, every early morning spent strategizing. Yet all they saw was a brother who couldn't measure up to the golden child. "Hey, little brother," Alex's voice pierced my thoughts as he approached, accompanied by our parents. "What's the matter? Are you sulking because your business is a flop?" His casual tone dripped with disdain, and I could feel my pulse quicken. "You're not going to quit on us, are you? I mean, what's next? A poetry reading at the local coffee shop." "Enough, Alex," I replied, clenching my fists at my sides to suppress the rising tide of anger. "It's not a joke to me. This is my life, and I'm doing something meaningful." "Meaningful?" he scoffed, shaking his head. "You call that nonsense meaningful? Look around you, everyone here is successful. Why can't you just accept that you're not cut out for this?" It was like a punch to the gut. His words echoed in my mind, amplifying the doubts that had plagued me for years. My parents nodded in agreement, their silence a tacit endorsement of his ridicule. I was trapped in a cycle of despair, and the more I fought back, the more isolated I felt. It was as if I were standing on a tightrope, and with every taunt, I was losing my balance. "You know what?" I said, a sudden surge of defiance rising within me. "Maybe I'm not cut from the same cloth as you, but that doesn't mean I'm a failure. I have my vision, and I'm going to make it happen." "Vision?" Alex laughed, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "You mean your pipe dream? What's the plan, to go bankrupt and come crying back to us? You should just give up while you can." My heart raced, the fire in my chest igniting. "You don't know anything about me, Alex?" I shouted, drawing the attention of nearby relatives. Their curious glances only fueled my anger. "You've never had to fight for anything. You've lived in a bubble of privilege your entire life. You think just because you wear a suit and drive a fancy car, you're better than everyone else. It's pathetic." "Calm down," he said, raising his hands in mock surrender. "I'm just trying to help you, little brother. The world isn't about dreams, it's about results. You're wasting your time." In that moment, I realized the futility of trying to reach him. I was talking to a brick wall, and every attempt to defend myself only pushed me further from the family's approval. I could feel the familiar sting of tears threatening to surface, but I blinked them away. I wouldn't allow him to see me break. "Maybe you're right," I said, my voice low but steady. "Maybe I am wasting my time. But I refuse to abandon my dreams just because you think they're silly. I'm not going to let your opinions dictate my worth." With that, I turned on my heel and walked away, leaving Alex and my parents behind. Each step felt liberating, but the fear of what lay ahead loomed large. I needed to find a way to prove them wrong. I had to channel this humiliation into something greater, something that would make them see me as I truly was. As I retreated to a quieter part of the estate, my mind raced with possibilities. What if I could secure a meeting with an investor, someone who could see the potential in my startup? I had spent countless hours crafting my pitch, and perhaps it was time to step out of the shadows and into the light. I needed to dig deep, find the clarity amidst the chaos, and prove that I was more than just my brother's little sibling. The sound of laughter and clinking glasses faded into the background as I settled onto a bench beneath a sprawling oak tree. Taking a deep breath, I pulled out my laptop and opened it, my fingers dancing over the keys. I started drafting an email to a potential investor who had expressed interest in innovative technology startups. This was my chance, an opportunity to showcase my hard work, my determination, and the passion that had fueled my journey thus far. As I wrote, a plan began to form in my mind. I would not only seek funding, but also strive for the support and validation I had long been denied. I envisioned the moment when I would stand before my family, not as the underdog, but as a leader, the one who had turned the tables and emerged victorious. Suddenly, the screen lit up with a notification. My heart raced as I saw an email from a renowned tech company. They were interested in discussing a potential partnership. My breath caught in my throat. This was it. My startup was gaining traction, and perhaps, just perhaps, I could transform their perception of me. Gathering my thoughts, I realized this was more than just a business venture. It was my rebellion. This was my way of reclaiming my dignity and proving that I was more than just a footnote in Alex's story. I was ready to rise from the shadows, ready to fight for my dreams, and ready to show them all that I was worth believing in. As I clicked send, I felt a rush of exhilaration. The battle was far from over, but I had taken the first step. I glanced back toward the gathering, the sound of laughter now distant. I knew that the coming days would test my resolve, but I was willing to face whatever challenges lay ahead. I wouldn't let my family's opinions hold me back any longer. It was time to reclaim my narrative and write my own success story. With renewed determination, I stood up, ready to face my family again. I would no longer be the brother who cowered in the shadows. I was ready to challenge the status quo, and with every ounce of my being, I would fight for my place in this world. It was time to show them what I was truly capable of. As I retreated to the quiet part of the estate, the cool shade of the trees offered a brief respite from the emotional storm brewing within me. I leaned against the sturdy trunk of an oak, taking a deep breath to steady my racing heart. My mind raced, fueled by the humiliation I had just endured. But instead of wallowing in despair, something shifted within me. I could either let this moment define my failure or use it as fuel to ignite a fire I had long suppressed. I pulled out my phone and opened the Notes app, a sanctuary for my thoughts and ideas that had accumulated over the years. Pages filled with sketches, plans, and dreams that I had hidden from everyone, my family, my friends, even myself. They were remnants of a vision I had almost abandoned. But now, as the pain from Alex's mockery echoed in my ears, clarity washed over me. I wasn't just a dreamer. I was an innovator with a plan that had the potential to disrupt the industry. It was then that I recalled the seminars I had been secretly attending over the last few months. Late nights spent in dimly lit conference rooms, surrounded by strangers who shared my passion for technology and entrepreneurship. I had been networking with industry leaders, absorbing knowledge like a sponge, and crafting a prototype for a tech solution that could revolutionize the way small businesses operated. The idea was simple yet powerful. A software that integrated various essential business tools into one streamlined platform, making it easier for startups to manage their operations without the overwhelming complexities of traditional systems. The more I thought about it, the more determined I became. I had managed to secure a meeting with a venture capitalist who had a reputation for spotting groundbreaking ideas. And now, with a pitch in my mind and a prototype ready for presentation, I was more than just the underdog. I was a force to be reckoned with. What if I could secure a meeting with other investors? I whispered to myself, the mere thought igniting a rush of adrenaline. What if my startup could become a success? What if I could finally earn my place in this family? My resolve hardened. I wasn't going to let Alex's words hold me back any longer. I envisioned the moment when I would walk into that meeting, my head held high, ready to present my vision. I imagined the look on my family's faces when they would learn that I was no longer the invisible sibling but a contender in the game of life. As I stood there, the sun began to dip low on the horizon, casting golden rays that danced between the leaves. I felt a surge of empowerment, a promise to myself that I would rise above the expectations that had shackled me for so long. The whispers of doubt that once clouded my mind were now replaced with the sound of my heartbeat, a reminder that I was alive, determined, and ready to fight for my dreams. But I knew this internal transformation would not remain hidden for long. The family reunion was still ongoing, and eventually I would have to confront my family again. I could almost hear Alex's mocking laughter in the background, echoing the doubts that had plagued me for years. Yet this time I wouldn't allow those taunts to define who I was. I would emerge stronger, armed with knowledge and ambition. The following days passed in a blur of preparation. I immersed myself in refining my pitch, rehearsing in front of the mirror until my words flowed like water. I reached out to the contacts I had made, gathering insights and feedback that would strengthen my presentation. Each interaction fueled my excitement, and for the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of purpose driving me forward. As the day of the meeting approached, I felt a mix of anticipation and anxiety swirling within me. I recalled my brother's words, "You're wasting your time," and I smiled. If only he knew how hard I had been working, he might have thought twice about underestimating me. The image of my family's disbelief, their expressions when they discovered I was not only surviving but thriving, propelled me forward. The meeting day dawned bright and clear. I dressed in my best suit, a stark contrast to the casual attire I often wore. I felt like a new person, ready to seize the opportunity that lay ahead. As I made my way to the office of the investor, I could feel the adrenaline coursing through my veins. When I finally arrived, the sleek glass building loomed before me, a symbol of the world I aspired to join. I took a deep breath, stepping into the lobby where the air buzzed with ambition and innovation. As I waited for my turn, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was on the verge of something monumental. This was my chance to prove myself not just to my family, but to the world. As I stepped into the conference room, the investor greeted me with a firm handshake, and I felt the weight of my aspirations hanging in the air. I began my pitch, pouring my heart into each word, detailing my vision and how it could change the landscape for aspiring entrepreneurs like myself. The more I spoke, the more confident I became, fueled by the belief that my idea could truly make a difference. After I finished, the silence in the room felt heavy, but in that stillness I caught a glimmer of interest in the investor's eyes. "This is impressive," he said, leaning back in his chair. "Tell me more about your plans for scaling." In that moment, I knew I had captivated his attention. The thrill of validation surged through me, and I couldn't help but think of how far I had come. I was no longer the brother defined by ridicule. I was an entrepreneur ready to carve out my legacy. But little did I know, the true test was yet to come. As I prepared to leave, my phone buzzed with a message that would change everything. "Meeting with family tonight, we need to talk." It was a text from my mother. The calm before the storm had arrived, and I felt everything I had worked for teetering on the edge of revelation. I had built a hidden path to success, but now I had to face the family that had once doubted me. The confrontation was inevitable, and as I headed home, I steeled myself for what was to come. The stage was set for a reckoning, and I was ready to reveal my truth. As I stood there, the fading sunlight casting long shadows across the estate, I felt a rush of determination surge through me. The family reunion, once a source of dread, now felt like a pivotal moment, one where I could redefine my narrative. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the confrontation that lay ahead. The atmosphere inside the grand hall was buzzing with laughter and chatter as I rejoined the gathering. This time, however, I walked with purpose. My heart raced not from fear but from excitement. I felt like a lion ready to roar, no longer the prey but the hunter. As I made my way through the throngs of relatives, I spotted my brother Alex, his smug expression a reminder of the scorn I had endured. But today, I was armed with something he could never take from me: confidence. "Look who decided to join us," Alex said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Did you find a new hobby in the woods? Maybe something that actually matters?" I smiled, letting his words roll off me like water off a duck's back. "Actually, Alex, I've been quite busy. You might want to hear about it." I couldn't help but lean into the confrontation, the thrill of the moment electrifying my veins. Before he could respond, I noticed a tall figure approaching, an unfamiliar face among the family. Dressed in a sharp suit, the man radiated authority. He scanned the room, and when his gaze landed on me, he smiled. "You must be the one I've heard so much about," he said, extending his hand. "I'm Mark from Google." The room fell silent, the laughter dying as everyone turned to witness this unexpected interaction. My heart raced not from embarrassment but from the realization that my moment had arrived. Yes, that's me, I replied, shaking his hand firmly. What brings you here? I've been following your startup's progress, Mark replied, his eyes gleaming with interest. Your vision for integrating essential business tools into one platform is innovative. I'd love to discuss it further. A mixture of disbelief and triumph washed over me. I glanced around the room, taking in the shocked expressions on my family's faces. This was the moment I had been waiting for, a chance to finally show them who I was and what I had achieved. What do you mean? Alex interjected, his voice laced with confusion. You're just a dreamer. How could Google be interested in you? I turned to him, my voice steady, because I've been working hard, Alex. While you were busy ridiculing my ideas, I was building something real, something that could change the industry. The murmurs in the room grew louder as I felt the tide of the family dynamic shift. I took a deep breath, feeling the power of the moment. Mark, if you're willing, I'd love to set up a meeting to discuss my startup further. I believe we could create something amazing together. Mark nodded, pulling out his phone. Let's get something on the calendar. I'll make sure our team is involved. As I watched him type, I felt a surge of pride. This was it, the moment I had envisioned while standing alone beneath the oak tree. My dreams were no longer just dreams, they were becoming reality. The whispers in the room grew more intense, and I could see my parents exchanging worried glances. The weight of their expectations suddenly felt lighter, as if I had shed the cloak of inadequacy they had draped over me for so long. I'm the rightful owner of a startup valued at millions, I declared, my voice rising above the murmurs. And I've done it all without your support. Alex's face paled, his bravado deflating as the reality of my words sank in. But how could you? You've always been the one who. Who what? I interrupted, feeling a rush of adrenaline. Who was overlooked? Who was underestimated? I'm done letting your words define me. I'm not just your little brother. I'm a force to be reckoned with. The room was quiet, the tension palpable. It felt as though the air had thickened and every eye was on me, waiting for my next move. I continued, I've worked tirelessly and now it's time for me to take my place. Not just in this family, but in the world. Mark looked around, sensing the shift in the atmosphere. If you're serious about this, I can arrange for a demo of your prototype at our next tech summit. It could be a game changer for you. The realization hit me like a wave. This was what I had been working toward all along. I nodded, my heart swelling with hope. That would be incredible. As the conversation continued, I could feel the power dynamics within the family shifting. My parents, who had once looked at Alex with pride, now turned their attention to me with a mix of admiration and uncertainty. I could see the gears turning in their minds, processing the fact that their little dreamer was now carving out a place for himself in the world. The evening unfolded with laughter and conversations, but this time I was no longer an outsider looking in. I was part of the narrative, and I felt a sense of belonging that had eluded me for so long. As the reunion came to an end, I found myself standing outside, the cool night air wrapping around me like a comforting embrace. I looked up at the stars, a sense of gratitude washing over me. I had fought to redefine my identity, and I was finally emerging from the shadows. With every step I took away from the estate, I felt lighter, more empowered. The journey ahead was still uncertain, but I was no longer afraid. I had reclaimed my voice, my dreams, and my place in this world. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe for more stories where the underdog finally gets the justice they deserve.